The idea of brain rot sounds like a little bit of fun because, it's a little Gen Z term sort of designed to sound a little bit funny and, sound like a little bit of an overreaction, like we're dramatizing the dissipation of the collective unconscious. But short form content is actually really bad for you. Like, it's really bad for you. By the end of this video, you're going to know some things about it, and I'm going to give you a fresh perspective on it that will make you want to quit it and never scroll again. Because you know from the beginning of this video that short form content is not good for you. In the same way that if you pick up a cigarette and smoke a cigarette, you know it's probably not going to be good for you. It's really common for us to know that things are bad for us but not act out on them. But the thing is most addictions and most behaviors that are destructive manifest physically, at least in physical ways that are painful and in ways that are noticeable in terms of your body changing. But short form content is a silent killing addiction, and it rots away at your brain without you realizing it. Basically, what happens when you watch short form content consistently too much is your brain literally rots away. And I'm going to explain this in a second from a sort of more neuroscientific perspective, but just hear me out here. If you're addicted to smoking, you feel like shit. Your lungs get all clogged up, you get out of breath, you can't exercise as much. If you're addicted to alcohol, you get hungover all the time, you get tired all the time. If you're addicted to sugar, you get big energy spikes and big energy crashes. If you're addicted to gambling, you see your money dissipating your bank account. But the silent addiction, the one that no one really tries to solve because they don't see any consequence, is short form content. And before we get into it, I want to tell you about something called Imperium Academy. Now, I see your finger hovering over the skip button, but before you press it, just give me 5 seconds here because I can completely change your life. First link in the description is a program called Imperium Academy. It's a 6-week training program that gives you step-by-step instructions that shows you how to build a business that helps you achieve financial freedom. It's completely free. There is no credit card required. There's already nearly 30,000 people using it and loving it. So go and check it out now and let's crack on with the video. Let me explain something to you. You have one brain. For now, until Elon Musk figures out how to give us more than one, you have one brain. And your only primary sole job in life should be to protect 2 things, your brain and your body. Because you only get one of each. But your brain is the most important thing because this is the mechanism that you use to communicate with everyone, process your emotions, and basically just literally hallucinate your reality. When you watch short form content and when you scroll on these apps mindlessly, and the keyword there is mindlessly, you disengage your neural circuitry. In English, what that means is you stop using your brain. And if you don't believe me, let me ask you a question. Name me 5 Instagram reels or 5 YouTube shorts or 5 TikToks that you remember from your last doomscrolling session. Can you actually think of like even 3 or 4 short form videos that you watched yesterday or the day before? Now, like if I asked you, name me 3 or 4 movies you've watched in the last month, or name me 3 or 4 TV series, or 3 or 4 long form YouTube videos, or 3 or 4 podcasts, you'd have no problem recalling those. But the problem is because short form content is on average like 10 seconds long or something, you don't give your brain enough time to engage in the stimuli to remember it and process it. And so what that means is when you're scrolling through short form content, you're literally scrolling through the void. When you sit and have a doom scrolling session, it's almost as if that didn't happen. On a neurochemical level, on a neuroscientific level, your brain was disengaged and you were basically unconscious. It's like being asleep. And that should terrify you. Because when you scroll through short form content, you might think that you're just losing a bit of time or losing a bit of whatever. But you're losing 2 things. You're losing your life, literally. You're not living. But on top of that, your brain literally decays. So the brain and the human body works on the idea or the principle that you either use it or you lose it. An example of this is senescence. Senescence is a term used to define what happens to old people. So as people get older, their organs degrade, their brain gets slower, and their body just starts sort of aging. And that's very normal for people that are getting older. But one of the main reasons that senescence happens in old people, and one of the main things that accelerates senescence and makes it faster, is a lack of use. And so there's lots of studies done on nunnery. So like these nuns, groups of nuns from churches and stuff. And they found that nuns on average, and there's a big meta study across the world, but nuns on average that keep their brain engaged in board games, in conversation, in social life, etc., etc. These old nuns, these like ladies over the age of 70, 80, their brain decays at a slower rate than those who just sit around and watch TV all day. And the reason this happens is because if you don't use it, you lose it. Now, here's the problem with short form content. When you're scrolling through short form content, you are not using your brain. The average length of the novel stimuli, i.e. the video, is not long enough for your neuro capacity to actually latch onto it, remember it, process it, and file it away. And so what that means is you're not using your brain, and that should scare you. So when you're watching short form content, what happens is there's less electrical pulses. Your brain's still doing things. It's still regulating your breathing. It's still going to be regulating you swallowing. It's still going to be regulating your temperature, but you're not consciously using it. And this is a very, 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 very low level, shallow perspective of neuroscience that won't be necessarily representative as far as biology goes. But the way it works is like this. When you do something, neuron thickens. When you don't do something, neuron thins. So this is why habits are so hard to give up, because if you imagine from a biological perspective in your brain, this isn't entirely accurate, but it's the easiest way to explain it to a broad audience. When you engage in a behavior, every time that in order for that behavior to happen, your neuron has to kind of like fire. And every time the neuron fires, it gets slightly reinforced and it's more likely to fire again. And this is why addictions that have been built up over the last 10, 20 years or so are so hard to give up, because your neurons have become thick and that's just their default mode of firing. It's just addiction. And so when you use and watch short form content, your neurons are thickening to watch short form content, but in the process, everything else in your brain just stops. Here's the terrifying statistic. I did some research on this. The average Gen Z or millennial person spends between 3 to 4 hours per day on short form content. You spend 16 hours awake, and if you spend 4 hours on short form content, that's 25% of your life, your time, and your brain that are literally just being decayed before you. If your average life expectancy was 100 years, you might as well just shave 25 years off your life. There is no bigger time sink, no bigger life sink, and no bigger brain sink and neurochemistry sink than short form content. It is literally death in life. Think of it like this with your brain. Have you ever seen someone disabled before who's like disabled from the waist down and they're sat in a wheelchair? And you'll know what I'm talking about here if you've seen this, because people who are disabled from the waist down or paralyzed from the waist down, they can't use their legs. And what happens is, because they can't use their legs, they stop walking. And when they stop walking, you'll notice their legs get really skinny and they lose the muscle mass and the bone density in their legs, which means their legs physically shrink, and so do their pelvis and stuff like that. And you might have observed that before, right? And what that basically is that's what's happening to your brain when you watch short form content. Like, you become 25% more stupid, less articulate, less experienced, less emotionally available when you spend literally a quarter of your life on these platforms. If that's not a good enough reason for you to quit watching short form content, I don't know what is, but you're literally just giving your life up and sacrificing things. When you pair this, by the way, and I'll leave you with this in closing, when you pair this with large language models, with AI, we get an even worse situation, because what's starting to happen now is short form content consumption's on the rise, but so is GPT usage, right? So ChatGPT, large language models. What a lot of people are doing right now is they're letting ChatGPT think for them. And that's fine, because you can get a horrific amount of efficiency from using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, whatever it is. But the problem is a lot of people are just letting ChatGPT do all their thinking for them. And again, this is accelerated senescence. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so when you outsource all of your thinking to ChatGPT, you will lose the ability to think critically. In the same way that when you scroll through short form content and you're scrolling through all these emotions and all this viral content, you will lose your ability to properly process emotions and properly think. You just will. I mean, I'm a deca millionaire. I've made more than $40 million online, or nearly $40 million online. I had a dinner the other day with a guy worth 400 million. I know people worth $1 billion. I know people worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I've got friends that are 8 figures, 9 figures. None of them touch short form content with a barge pole. Not even with like a mile-long stick, they wouldn't touch it, because people that are high performers and people that do really well in life value their mental space, value their mental capacity, and would absolutely never ever sell part of their brain for short-term instant gratification. That's what you're doing. You're selling your life for pleasure. It doesn't sound like a very good deal to me, so stop doing it. I've built a program called Imperium Academy. It's a step-by-step training program that walks you through everything on how to start an agency, coaching, or consulting business in 6 weeks or less. It's completely free. There's no credit card required. There's already 25, 30,000 people getting results in there. So go and check it out. It will be the best thing you ever do for your life, and I'll see you in the next video.